Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 edition of Young Aurora, which is also the 5th edition of this amazing event. My name is Hannah Tümpel. I'm the interim executive lead of UWC International, and it's my pleasure and honor to be allowed to facilitate this event today for you and to lead you through the prize ceremony. Because of COVID, it's the second time that we are meeting virtually instead of together in one space in wonderful Armenia. And I'm sure that many of you will join me in being sad about that, because it was always so beautiful to celebrate together. But I think it's also important that we focus on the positive of this opportunity of having the event again in the virtual space, because it allows us to have people from really across the world with us today. And the event is spanning not only countries, but continents and many different time zones. And it's wonderful to see so many of you here and also on the Facebook live stream. These past months were not short of reminding us why humanitarian action is important. There are many examples I could be mentioning, but let me maybe just mention Afghanistan and the heartbreaking situation there, which affected all of us, I'm sure. And having participants from across the world at these Young Aurora events also, I think, reminds us that no crisis is ever really far away from us. For example, today we have one team from Eswatini in Southern Africa join us. And as some of you might know, the situation in Eswatini is difficult right now as we speak. And so my special welcome to all of those who are joining from situations where things are not just easy at the moment. And I think this is why Young Aurora is so important, because it reminds us that it is relevant to be informed about humanitarian concerns, but it especially reminds us of the importance of acting to alleviate humanitarian concerns. So in short, what I think Young Aurora is humanitarian action for a better world. And I'm always delighted to see that as part of all the Aurora activities, Young Aurora gives the next generation, today's youth, the opportunity to show how they are acting towards a better world. And in the next 1.5 hours, we will hear much more about that. Let me start, however, by welcoming and greeting a few special people on this call. And there are many, so forgive me for just picking out a few. First of all, I would like to celebrate the woman without whom this event wouldn't happen, because she has built it up, supported it, and championed Young Aurora over these past 5 years. And this is Veronica Sonnabend. Thank you so much, Veronica, for making this possible again, and we are looking forward to hearing from you in just a moment. And of course, there are also the founders of the Aurora Prize, without whom this event wouldn't be possible: Ruben Vardanyan, Nuban Afeyan, and of course, the late Vartan Gregorian, whom we miss especially much this year, because it's the first year that we don't have him with us. We are also very delighted to welcome the members of the final selection jury, whom we are very grateful to for joining us here today. I would like to welcome Syeda Ghulam Fatima, who is a human and labor rights activist, the General Secretary of Bonded Labor Liberation Front Pakistan, and was among the 2016 Aurora Prize humanitarian finalists. I would like to welcome Mirza Dinaya, a Yazidi activist and co-founder and director of Airbridge Iraq, and the 2019 Aurora Prize laureate. Welcome also to Alice Petrosian, who is a UWC Diligent board member and education consultant. Welcome to John Prendergast, who is a human rights activist and co-founder of the Sentry and an Aurora Prize selection committee member. And finally, last but not least, welcome to Maria Ines Kawamura, who is an UWC International board member. It's wonderful that you're all taking the time to share your expertise and your perspectives with the young people who are all looking up to the work you are already doing. And finally, I would also like to welcome and thank the two partner organizations who work with us together on this event, namely the African Leadership Academy and Teach for All. So during the coming 1.5 hours, we'll do a few things. Firstly, and importantly, we will hear from the 3 finalist teams of the Young Aurora Award. Then, and while the jury will leave us to deal with the difficult task of deciding on the winner, we will listen to a panel discussion moderated by Jaime Niemann with the title, Why We Need All Kinds of Minds, with some exciting panelists who will be introduced to you later on. And at the end, as this is the award ceremony, we will then hear the jury's announcement of the winner and celebrate the Young Aurora winner 2021. During the entire event, I would like to invite you to participate actively. You can do so by using the chat if you are joining us on Zoom, or also on Facebook, the chat function, and we will be monitoring that so that we can also hear from the many people who are joining us and listening to us. Before we hand over to Veronica, let's watch a video which celebrates the first 5 years of Young Aurora.
Engage, educate, empower.
As a UWC student, I always wanted to make a positive change, and Young Aurora was the opportunity for me to do so.
Taking part in Young Aurora gave us an opportunity to systematically think about and approach issues in our home community.
Having an opportunity to meet and learn from real-world change makers was a huge source of inspiration for all of us.
As a 3-time project supervisor, I was able to see how taking part in Young Aurora became the defining experience in our students' UWC education. Thank you, Young Aurora, for making all of that happen.
Thank you for supporting us in making our ideas and passion a reality.
Thank you for inspiring us to become humanitarian.
Thank you for making us humanitarians.
Happy 5th birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th year birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th birthday, Young Aurora!
Happy 5th
birthday,
Young Aurora!
Yes, happy 5th birthday indeed. How wonderful to look back, and how many happy memories, I think, for many of us who had the privilege of being there during these past editions. And with this, I would like to hand over to Veronica Sonnabend for some welcoming remarks. Veronica, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us from across the world for the 5th anniversary, for the 5th special event of Young Aurora. So it's a pity that the second time we have to have it online, but we believe in the future that next year we will be able to meet. And also this inspirational video reminded us how important us to be together and be able to meet each other, and that all the joint memories and their appearance of young humanitarians who can do and willing to do something for other people in their communities and beyond. One of the purpose of Aurora is to encourage young people and create a new role model for young generation when they discover and also reward real heroes of our world who do something very important for other people despite very difficult circumstances and despite atrocities happening around him, and they continue to do what they started, and they believe that they can win, and that good things that they do for others will make a positive impact. I'm glad to announce that this year winner team will receive $5,000 for project realization, and that we really hope that with this project will help young people to find their passion and first of all learn about themselves, what they are willing to do with their lives. Our finalists have passion, have talent, and I deeply believe that they will become bridge builders. Big hand to our finalists and good luck.
Thank you so much, Veronica, and thank you for all your vision and inspiration and leadership in making this happen over all these past years. So let's move on to our next key part, which is the presentation of this year's 3 finalist Young Aurora projects. COVID didn't stop the excitement for this year's edition. Originally, we had 15 project teams submit proposals from across almost all UWC schools and the African Leadership Academy. And they all submitted amazing projects dealing with important humanitarian concern in the vicinity of their schools and with very creative ways of how to tackle them. It wasn't an easy task for the pre-selection jury to decide on the 3 finalists. And let me also take this opportunity to thank all the members of the pre-selection jury for the hours and hours of work they dedicated into the selection process and into selecting the 3 finalists, but also supporting and continuously supporting all the other projects in the hope that they will also move towards realization and continued progress. And today we now have the happy 3 finalists with us. And I'm excited to tell you that they come from UWC Atlantic in Wales, UWC East Africa in Tanzania, and Waterford Kamplawa of Southern Africa in Eswatini. We will hear from each of them in a moment, and there will be a very specific order to each presentation. We will first get to watch a short video about the project. The team will then present their project and add some additional information they would like you to know about their project. We'll then quickly turn to the audience to get some quick feedback. And the jury will then have the opportunity to ask 1 or 2 questions to the project teams of any aspect they would like to receive further information about. And so this is the process we will now watch 3 times. And with no further ado, let's kick it off. And first, I will ask you to travel with me to Southern Wales, and we will hear from the UWC Atlantic College team Peer Listener Project and their idea on how to tackle the mental health crisis among young people. Let's start by watching their video and then immediately after that hear from the team themselves.
Mental health is one of the most pressing humanitarian issues of our time, and too many young people are suffering in silence. That is why we have created a project that will serve as a direct line between those who need help and those who can provide it, based on the UWC Atlantic College model of peer listening support.
It's a program that was established just over a decade ago in response to the rising issues around student mental health. It trains students to be able to listen to and support fellow students with mental health problems and well-being as well.
So what does a peer listener do?
Their role is to offer unbiased, confidential support and a listening ear to students.
And what is the benefit of having peer listeners available for students?
it's a peer-to-peer interaction. Because it is a peer and it's someone who lives through a lot of the things that you also live through, students are more likely to come forward and speak to these people.
I think it's also a brilliant example of student agency in action, the fact that young people can be trained to support fellow young people and make a difference in each other's lives.
What is the benefit for peer listeners themselves?
Being a peer listener allowed me to learn a lot about myself and my ability to deal with difficult situations, but it also allowed me to give back to my community as I was able to support students through a wide range of issues and promote an environment where mental health is an open and healthy discussion.
Why do we want to expand the peer listener network into local schools?
Before I attended Atlantic College, I went to a local school in West Wales where there really weren't many things in place to support students with their mental health. So it was a real eye-opener for me to see when I came to Atlantic College that there were students specifically trained in peer listening and to support people with their mental health. And I really think that it's important that all students have access to this, regardless of what school they attend.
How will we adapt UWC Atlantic's peer listener system to local day schools?
Students will be using an online platform for communicating between them, for the training sessions, and for the 1-hour sessions they will have once a week with the students from UWC.
What impact do we want to make on our local community?
The impact we hope this project will have is an immediate improvement in the students' well-being. The introduction of peer listeners in each school will naturally increase the community's knowledge of mental health, as they will be visible members of the community and will be able to share their knowledge with others through their ambassador role. We will consider this project successful if we see a reduction in the numbers of people suffering with mental health issues in silence.
This project specifically is really exciting because it is using the expertise that the college has to create a wider impact on the community.
It encourages young people to take ownership of their own mental health and encourages the community to be accountable for its own well-being.
And I think that's especially important given the rising issues around mental health that we have been seeing in recent years and also which has become more acute during the pandemic.
Hello everyone, we're the Peer Listener. Hello everyone, we're the Peer Listener Project. I'm Raya, I'm from Bulgaria and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm James from Vietnam and I use he, him pronouns.
And I'm Rosie from the UK and I use she, her pronouns.
The humanitarian concern that we aim to combat with our project is the youth mental health crisis and especially its local impact on the community here in Wales. Welsh students have deal with great issues regarding their mental health, like bullying, academic pressure, identity issues, and social pressure, as shown by UK statisticians. That is why we want to adapt the peer listener system we have here in UWC Atlantic to the day schools in Wales. Peer listeners are trained by professionals in order to keep an eye out and look after their peers. We really want to emphasize on how important they are to our community here in UWC Atlantic, as they get trained by professionals in topics like homesickness, listening skills, mediation skills, and anti-discrimination. They also support students with their sexual health. Peer listeners have a great responsibility to report concerns about the safety of the students and raise awareness to create a safer environment here at the college. We also really want to create the online platform that is going to connect the people who need help with the peer listeners who can provide it. We believe that our motto is going to be successful as it is already effectively working here in UWC Atlantic, and it also shows firsthand experience as teenagers talking to their peers about problems has been proven to be more effective before they go for further help with professionals. I'm gonna give it over to James, who's gonna talk about finance.
In the time of 12 months, we'll enlarge our project to a network of 10 sister schools in Wales. And we'll use the funding from the Aurora Prize for developing the online platform and also to consulting external counselor for our network. If we don't have the support from the Aurora Prize, we're getting funding from other means such as online crowdfunding and through the UWC network, as well as student contribution. We believe that our project is sustainable because socially we have received a huge amounts of positive response, and we also have many generations of peer listeners to continue our project in the long term. Economically, we are a non-profit and very self-sufficient project, and as well as environmentally, we comply with UWC sustainability policy. And next would be Rosie.
In terms of the challenges we faced, so we applied for funding earlier on in the year. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful, but the good thing about that is that we learnt it gave us a time to reflect upon our project and think about what needed to be improved, and make sure that we knew exactly what we wanted to happen in every part of the project, and make sure it was as effective as it possibly could be. In terms of the effectiveness of our project, we did a survey earlier on this year, as was said earlier in the video, about students, about how the peer listener system affects students here at Atlantic, and it showed how much of a difference it makes. It was super heartwarming to read all the stories from all these students who peer listeners had really helped. And that's what we plan to do in the pilot school as well. We'll have a survey at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And if UWCA is anything to go off of, it will show that there is a massive improvement in mental health at the pilot school. In terms of future plans, the great thing with our project is once it has been set up in the UK and we've set up our platform here in our local community, it shouldn't require very much more funding or work to be able to expand it to other UWCs and their local communities. We also hope to translate it into some other languages so that it is more accessible to the local communities of other UWCs. Yeah, thank you for listening. We're the Peer Listener Project, and we provide a direct line between those who need help and those who can provide it.
Thank you so much, Team UWC Atlantic. Well done. While the jury thinks of the question they would like to ask, let's first hear from the audience. And I think everybody can actually use the chat. It doesn't matter whether you're a panelist or whether you are just listening. Can you put each a word which comes to your mind after you listen to this project? What did it trigger in you? Let's see some things. I see important, empathy, more important, needed. Lots of UWC heads commenting there. Anything else? Ooh. Current. Somebody putting not so many nice things. Significant. Inspirational.
No. Yes, my question.
Okay, great. So let's turn to the jury. I see Mirza stand up. And I think you'll be spotlighted as well.
Hi, thank you very much for this interesting project. I think it's very important because we have less or somehow a deficiency in mental health professionals. So it's very important to have some people who are in the middle. Are your peer listeners students or teachers? Thank you.
So the peer listeners are students. They're people within the student body. They are the second year of college, so the last year of school, and they're just normal people. They're part of the student body. They don't really have any other sort of status other than the fact that they receive training, and they're people who volunteer and go through a rigorous selection process and then a rigorous training process to be able to assist their peers. But it's super important that it is a peer-to-peer thing, because it means that they're much more approachable and much more it bridges the gap between approaching a mental health professional, and it is a much less daunting thing to approach someone who is living a similar experience to you typically than it is to approach someone who is seemingly very far away from that issue.
Becoming a peer listener also involves a very thorough selection process, as the counselors are very strict and very careful about who they give that responsibility to, because the peer listeners are only a limited amount within the school. We have around 16 peer listeners in UWC Atlantic currently. We strive to have 2 peer listeners in every house here on campus, so that the peer listeners are available to all students almost at all times throughout the day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sieda, I'll also pass it on to you.
Yes, thank you. And good evening, good morning. I really appreciate your peer listener project, but it is in my mind that how long it will survive after the completion of this project.
So
how long it will sustain?
It is the great thing about this project is it's super sustainable. because peer listeners get re-elected every year here, reselected every year here at UWC Atlantic. But also, once we've got our platform, our online platform up and running, we will be able to train peer listeners with no funds, basically. We will be able to train peer listeners all over the world, as many people as you want. All you would need is a login to this website, and there would require no additional work, because we would simply have peer listeners, like other peer listeners training. We would create a training program that could be done online through this platform. We would also have access to counselors and other peer listeners. So once this platform was up and running, it would be completely sustainable for as long as it could, because they wouldn't require anything beyond that. That's the great thing about it.
Thanks so much. John, I do see your hand, but I will be moving us on because we have very limited time. So I have a question for one of the next teams. So thank you, team UWC Atlantic. And I will now ask you to travel with me to Tanzania. And more specifically, we will hear from the team from UWC East Africa about their LoRax project and how the project deals to tackle soil erosion and deforestation in Arusha, Tanzania. And I'm asking the tech team to take the spotlight away from many of us and to show the Tanzania video if they can.
You have a school with like lots of children. Do you think with more soil erosion, it's dangerous for the children in the area?
Of course, because the part that the soil erosion is taking place, sometimes they can just go there to hide themselves and
Beautiful land once filled with life, now left bare, lifeless and dangerous. It starts with trees being cut down and exacerbates to leave behind a dry desert that ruins the lives of many. This is not at all an issue that's too far from our daily lives. Since soil erosion and deforestation act exponentially, the problem continues to get worse and there isn't much being done about it. In Inoti, every year and with every rainy season, the kids of the local school watch the land near their football field and their playground get broken up and stripped. Farmers wonder how much longer they would be able to protect their land. They can see at this rate their livelihood is directly affected by this problem. Paradoxically, the water that they long for is exactly what is harming them. Today there is a dire need, not just in Inoti village and the school, but the surrounding schools, to address deforestation and soil erosion once and for all.
And that is why we decided to take a new approach towards the problem, solving it with the help of seed bombs. Seed bombs are small marble-sized balls made out of clay, soil, the seed, water, and sometimes chili flakes. They'll be made in UWCEA as a CCA, then they will be sent to the other schools where they can be very easily distributed by the children. Once distributed, seed bombs will wait for rain to come so that they can germinate. However, the water system in the Inoti Primary School, Osiliki and Deves, Musa secondary schools, and many more, is barely strong enough to meet the needs of the people, let alone help them for vegetation.
While visiting the school in Inoti, we were devastated to find out how a school so close to us can have such a big water problem. And unfortunately, they weren't the only ones. There are many kids in Arusha who miss out on school because of water-related diseases, or they fall asleep in class because they had to collect water early in the morning. In addition to that, due to the lack of water, sanitation is compromised. This is especially dangerous with the spread of COVID worldwide. But we can change that with a simple rainwater collecting system. By putting gutters and providing the schools with tanks or water barrels, we can provide the schools with clean waters and ensure the safety of the kids. As a side effect to that, we can also ensure the survival of the trees planted there during the dry season.
Help us bring a sense of security to the people,
an end to the expansion of the ravines,
life back to these barren lands,
a fighting chance for these lands and its people.
We are the LoRax team. We speak and advocate for the truth.
Hello, my name is Magnus. I'm from the US.
I'm from Syria.
I'm Katika. I'm from the US.
Ravi from the US.
I'm Ali from Iraq.
And I'm Amitis from Iran. Now, I know it's a little bit scary when a group of teenagers come to you talking about bombs, but I assure you, we mean seed bombs. Seed bombs are a new way of fighting deforestation. However, they're a proven way to work, as shown by Seed Balls Kenya's use of them, which is an organization we're currently working with. They're easy to make and they're fun to distribute, which makes them amazing. They help you use the dry season so that you can use that time to distribute them so that they can wait for the rainy season to come and then germinate altogether. In addition to that, our team is planning on installing water collecting systems for the schools, which is a simple system of gutters, pipes, and water tanks, which lets the kids use the rainwater collected for personal use as well as watering the seeds in the dry season. In addition to that, we are in contact with One Tree Planted. We have the lesson plan they have to educate kids about soil erosion and deforestation. We're planning on working with the kids with this lesson plan so that we could educate them on the potential effects of deforestation and hopefully make them make more educated decisions once they grow older and don't cut as much trees, which is the main reason why we have this problem in the first place in Tanzania. The plants are carefully chosen by the team. For example, Moringa oleifera, which if you crush the seeds and put them in water, they would kill more than 90% of the harmful bacteria in the water. For more information, please go to our project.
As for the funding, we're planning to use the Young Aurora funding to buy the contents of our seed balls, including the chili flakes that will repel any animals that might eat the seed balls either during or before germination. We're also using the funding to buy the materials needed for the water collecting system, such as the gutters and the tank. In case we don't get the Young Aurora funding, we are determined and we still care about our project. That's why we will continue, but sadly on a much smaller scale with only one school, which is the primary school of Unoti. With the help of Rotary Club and other fundraising events that we do as a team, we have already had one fundraising event where we managed to raise $350 towards our project.
There are several humanitarian issues that our project addresses, such as soil erosion, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity, spread of disease through both water and dust, as well as lack of access to clean water, which leads to dehydration and severe health issues. The impacts of our projects are that 3 different schools will be allowed access to clean water. There will be expansion of biodiversity. The community members are given an economic gain through the fruit trees, as well as a health benefit through the specific plants that we choose to be inside the seed balls, as Amitis mentioned earlier. The clean water that our project provides allows the children to miss less school and improve their mental and physical health. We'll be measuring these impacts through before and after pictures of the land, as well as measuring the consistency of school attendance of the children after the installation of our water collecting roofs.
As for the sustainability of our project, Unoti School has an area of land protected from the outside. This is shown in the background of this photo. The plot has much more plant life than the surrounding areas, which are eroded, as seen in the foreground of this photo, which shows our solution works. After the funding is used up, the plants will grow under students' care and the water systems will remain. Therefore, the project's sustainability is ensured. This project is environmentally sustainable because of the negative net carbon emissions, which are a result of the numerous trees we are planting across the land. This project is socially sustainable because we form tight connections with schools in high erosion areas, which greatens the scale of the project and can ensure the project continues without our supervision. The One Tree Planted lesson plan allows us to learn and teach the benefits of trees, bringing context to the students as well as ourselves. Overall, this is a project that can continue making an impact well into the future. We are the Lorax team and we speak and advocate for the trees. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Team East Africa. Can I again have some reactions, just some words in the chat? And I'm not sure for whom the chat is still enabled, but I'm sure all the other teams and the panelists can still put comments. What comes to your minds when you hear this? Wonderful, multi-layered, so proud, sustainable. Wonderful. So proud is here from your head of school, by the way. Important. Real thinkers. Great presentation. Visionary. Essential. Impactful. Wow. Creative. Okay, those are some really great words. Thanks so much. And I already see 2 jury members having a question, so I will turn to them. First to John, because I cut him off before, and then to Alice.
Thanks. I would add a number of those words if I had to put words in, creative especially. I think it's really important. I'd love to hear just a little bit more about, so many development projects around the world, and Africa is kind of a case study of that, have great ideas, but when the community itself, when the actual impacted folks aren't involved in the creation of the project, in the sort of conceptualization of the project and the implementation of the project, you often see that they fail, or that they don't achieve the kind of desired result. So I'm interested in hearing from you all about how you imagine maximally involving the community, the students, the folks that are going to be the beneficiaries of the project.
Yes, so we are planning to make the seed balls at school at UWC East Africa. So that involves the UWC East Africa community. And then we're going to be giving the seed balls to these children at the local schools, for example, an OT school. And they're going to be the ones distributing them and caring for the trees after their initial germination stages. And also because we're providing a water system for them, which is a need. They're more willing to help us with protecting the trees and things.
And the thing is, the project developed after we visited the schools and we talked to them, and they told us, yeah, we cannot take care of trees because we don't have enough water to drink even. And they were like, okay, we can, and the project kind of evolved after hearing about the needs of the community. So it's not that we just heard about it and we came up with a project. We actually went there, we talked to them, and yeah, we know that they're willing to participate.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate the answers.
Alice, over to you.
My question deals with, have you researched the seed bombs and its effectiveness? Do you have some evidence that in other places this has worked and it has been sustainable, and can you share that?
Yes, we talked to Seed Bombs Kenya. They're a big organization in Kenya that are focused on distributing seed bombs and fighting deforestation. We are working with them. We have most of the resources. They helped us with them find them. They're even planning on sending us some seed balls once we have the permit to import seeds. So we are in contact with them, and they've assured us that it's a way that works because they've been using it for a long time.
Great. Thanks so much, Lorax team. I'm sure we would have lots of more questions, but we will have to move on. So thank you very much and well done. And with that, I will take you on our third and final journey. And this time we will remain in Africa, but we will travel to Eswatini. And we will hear from the Seed of Hope team, who plan to empower young people in a local refugee camp. So can we please watch the video from the Waterford Kamplaba of Southern Africa team?
Will I go to school the next day? Will my school fees be covered the next term? When I was in the refugee camp, these are the questions we used to ask ourselves. There was a sense of hope, like going to Waterford. Not everyone was like as me.
Young refugees at Malinza refugee camp are facing extremely low access to education. Currently, the school shutdown in Eswatini caused by both the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing social unrest are not only taking their days, but also their social interactions with others that every human beings need.
As a result, they are more vulnerable to mental health issues and addictive products like drugs and alcohol. The hope is slim for the young refugees. Without essential skills, they're most likely going to remain unemployed, and the Malinza community can hardly get rid of the cycle of poverty.
During the lockdown, we did not have any access to education due to the lack of funds for online school. And when we finally reopened, Caritas had cut down our funds for schooling. And so this demotivated a lot of us, and so are dropping out of school and going to Mozambique to help parents.
That's why we create the Seed of Hope.
Seed of Hope is a student-led initiative that aims to address the poor access and education of the young refugees through technology.
So we want to transform a ship container into the youth hub that combines both an online educational center and a social place. Currently, we have secured 10 laptops and the ship container through donations.
And we are currently working with the Amala Education and Swazi Mobile to set up a very credible online high school education in Paraguay so that young refugees can continue their schooling despite their financial situation or the school shutdown.
Okay, so just as Valshal and Prince have mentioned, the Youth Hub will not only be a place for online classes, but will be a social space so that young refugees from the refugee camp and the community may come together and maintain a healthy social life. With this, we believe that it could improve their mental well-being as well as their educational side of their lives.
We believe that in the long term, the most effective positive changes to the Malinza should come within the community, because the sense of community affiliation and their past experiences of the young refugees are the most effective catalysts that can lead to positive changes. In the future, we expect more people like our alumni advisors, Francisco and Kofi, who are passionate to bring back to positive changes to their home community with the education they receive. As a result, we believe that we can bring a sustainable cycle of positive changes to the Malinza even after our graduation.
I love this project because, as the name suggests, it is planting a seed of hope for refugees in the camp so they can receive the same education as me, so they can succeed in their future lives.
So hi everyone, we are the Seed of Hope team from Waterford Camp Halaba. I'm Yifei from China.
I'm Violet from South Sudan.
I'm Justin from Tunisia.
I'm Prince from DRC.
Francisco questions in the beginning of the video whether his school fees will be covered and whether he will go to school the next day. He himself was a young refugee living at the refugee camp and recently completed his IBDP at Waterford. Through this project, we aim to address his concerns.
So, the main humanitarian challenge that we are addressing is a young refugee's rights to education. In the Malinza refugee camp of Eswatini, due to nearly zero financial income, young refugees face high rates of school dropouts and isolation from other young groups in Eswatini, which also led to alarming mental health issues. The ongoing global pandemic and the civil unrest in Eswatini made the situation even worse by forcing school closures. Through the project, we expect to benefit about 70 young refugees from 16 to 25 with the social hubs that both serve as an online educational center and a socializing space. With the provision of a Mala High School curriculum, we offer them a seed of hope towards higher education. Also, we expect that through the project, we can have more young refugees like our alumni advisors, Francisco and Kofi, who can give back to their home community with their education.
Okay, now talking about the sustainability side and the potential expansion of our project, we are working closely with Umoja Youth Club to ensure a well-organized system of a day-to-day administration over the long term. We are also collaborating with the camp administration to facilitate the arrival of 5 extra ship containers from South Africa, which will be used to expand the scale of our project and therefore will increase the number of enrolled students in the Amala High School diploma. Moreover, we will establish a community service at our school, Waterford, to sustain our mission of creating the chance of education for the young refugees. We have also taken into consideration the need for a secure internet connection over the long term, and that's why we are making efforts to create a partnership with the local internet provider in Swaziland. If we win the Young Aurora Prize, we will use the money to redesign and furniture the containers, as well as supply it with the necessary tools to set up the laptops at internet connection and ultimately start the Amala High School diploma. Without the Young Aurora Prize, we believe it will be really challenging, but we will try to fundraise internationally through alumni and donors. And in this case, it will take longer time, which will disadvantage the young refugees, but we will keep making every effort possible to help these refugees out.
The challenges that we are likely to encounter are firstly, the lack of funds for funding the internet packages from the local internet service providers. However, the camp administration has offered to assist in funding for the data packages. Additionally, we will reach out to our Waterford friends and donors. Another challenge that we may encounter is technical difficulties with our devices. In this, the school community service club that will be set up will assist in solving the acute technical errors as well as assist the young refugees in navigating the devices. We have also partnered with the Waterford IT staff who will help in solving the major technical difficulties.
All right, so through this project, we really want to be able to plant that seed of hope in young refugees in Paka refugee camp so that they can believe and hope that they have a better future and they can be able to attend to school tomorrow despite the dire situation due to the pandemic, the political instability in the country until now, and their refugee status. I am myself a very real and tangible example on how having access to education can have and can be a game changer in a refugee's life. Just 2 years ago, I was living in a refugee camp in Zimbabwe without any hope of being able to rebuild my life one day. But by having access to education and the internet, I regained hope. And here I am today at a UWC school and making positive impact in my community. That is the same hope that we want to give to these young people through this project. The hope that through education, they can be able to rebuild their lives through education and they can be impactful leaders. The hope that conflict has taken away their homes and their families and everything that was dear to them, but conflict will never and will not take their future. These young refugees like me have lost hope in life, and Seed of Hope is able to give it back to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Team Seed of Hope. A third goosebump presentation. And can I ask the audience again to share some words which came to your mind? Excellent job is the first one. Life-changing, unique, well thought through, full of impact, valuable, impactful, well thought out, needed, impressive, hopeful, cooperative, inspirational, passion. So proud of you. Great, go ahead, well researched, sustainable, Kamplaba Viva. Okay, impressive, some wonderful words. And now over to the jury again. I see John's hand for the first question, and then Ines. Maybe we can spotlight both of them here, first from John and then from Ines.
This is truly inspiring. Thank you for what commitment you have made to others, all of you. The question I have is just maybe I missed it exactly, but will the students who come to the location, will they have access to remotely to a school where they come every day and go to classes by video? Is that how they're going to get their high school diplomas? I just didn't quite understand that part of it.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. The Amala program is an online high school diploma. So students or young refugees will be coming to the ship container or the youth hub and access educational material online.
Got it. Thank you.
Ines?
Thank you. Wow, congratulations. It's a fantastic project. My question here is, what is the added positive or negative impact that the current unrest in your community will have into the project?
Okay, so it's like really the civil unrest in Swatini and the COVID-19 pandemic is like hindering us from making a big progress. But the thing is that we are trying to overcome these difficulties by directly contacting with the Umoja Youth Club in the camp. So Umoja Youth Club is it's like an independent club activities organized by our alumni advisor Kofi, who was also from the Malinza refugee camp. So it's like by directly coordinating with them so that they can, it's like they are the bridge between our community in Waterford and the Malinza refugee community. So that with this bridge, we can coordinate them with them more efficiently and to make sure that the communication is clear.
Thank you so much, Seed of Hope team, and thank you to the jury. That brings us to the end of the presentation of the 3 finalists. And the jury will now have the very difficult task to choose the winner. And I'm very glad that I don't have that task ahead of me. So they will leave us now. To the jury, you've all been given a separate link to join, I believe, for your deliberations. And so maybe we will take a moment to wave them goodbye. We will see them again in 30 minutes or so with the announcement of the winners. Wishing you good conversations. And while we are waiting for their final decision, we will, however, continue with a fascinating program, more specifically with a debate on why we need all kinds of minds. And to moderate this debate or this conversation and to introduce the panelists, I am welcoming Jaime Niemann, who is joining us. Jaime is an international educator with many, many years of experience. He is today teaching global politics at the Eastern Mediterranean International School, but quite some from us and in the audience will know him from having been a legend at UWC Dilijan, not only because he formed a classroom collective, but also because he made Tai Chi part of politics. So over to you, Jaime, and to a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It's really great to be here. And like you said, I'm really envious of the judges because they get to explore these projects a little bit more in depth. And truly, they're all amazing. And I'm really excited to see who will be recognized and receive the support. But they're all really incredible. I just wanted to introduce this panel discussion. It's really more of a dialogue than a debate. And it's titled generally Why We Need All Kinds of Minds. And it really, I think, puts something really important right in front of us that people at UWC and other international environments really are thinking about all the time is how do we address and deal with other people, others who don't view the world like us, and how much diversity maybe is too much diversity. So I want to introduce our speakers that are going to join us and panelists. The first one I wanted to introduce was Musimbi Kanyoro, who is an incredible human rights activist, women's rights activist. She's received numerous prizes and recognitions for her work through her life, and now she's the chair and board of the UWC International Educational Movement. Welcome, Musimbi. And Zach Merida is one of my old students in Dilijan. I had the pleasure of learning and teaching Zach in Dilijan, and now he is in Sciences Po, continuing his education and exploration of, I believe, international politics. Thank you for joining us today in this panel discussion while the judges are deciding on the Young Aurora project winner. So I wanted to remind the audience that you can participate if you're on Facebook. All the viewers can participate in the comments section, and any students that are also here on Zoom can also share some of their thoughts and ideas on Zoom, but in the comments section. And I also wanted to invite the participants to reflect on an important question that is kind of gonna be driving this framing and theme of why we need all kinds of minds. So I hope the tech team can share with us the question and also where all the participants could actually share their thoughts and opinions and answers to this question. But our question is, what empowers you to collaborate or communicate with people unlike you? And maybe if Musimbi and Zach would like also to have a think, and maybe we could start with Musimbi and this idea of how do you collaborate and communicate with people who are not like you? Musimbi, would you care to think about that for us?
Thank you very much, Jamie, and glad to be with you on the panel, Zach, and I was expecting a good friend from Afghanistan as well. Okay, I thought that the subject that you gave us is quite interesting by itself. And what inspires me to converse and communicate with people who are different from me is because it's an opportunity of a lifetime. The first time that I ever traveled outside my country, I was only a teenager, and I was out on a trip to the UK for the Girl Guides. And when we arrived at the camp in the UK, just being teenagers of 12 years, I think 12, 13 years, it was amazing for me to see all these girls from everywhere. Just that alone. And it was not the beginning of conversing with different people from different places, but was the beginning of seeing the world in one place, meaning people from so far, not only in my country, with the diversity that we have, including the people that had traveled into our country. So what inspires me is that I see in others something that I don't have, and I want to be able to learn from that. I see indifference in people who are different from me, enrichment to me, and I also want to share a bit of who I am, how I think through things, what my experience has been. And I think when we bring all this together, it really widens our scope of understanding, both who we are and the world in which we live.
Musimbi, thank you. It's beautiful because in some ways, like, others complete you, others that are not like you complete you, and then but they also kind of connect you to this larger similarity and affinities that we all have. Thank you so much for sharing. Zach, would you like to think about your experience in such a diverse community like UWC Diligent, living with 82 nationalities, and then now in where you are in France? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different people that challenge you and maybe complete you as well.
Right, absolutely, Jaime, thank you. For me, looking back on my 2 years and with where I am right now, the thing that really excites me and inspires me about interacting with people who are different from me, let's say, is finding out what exactly is it about them that's different. Because obviously, when you look at them, you're led to believe that the way that we might look different, the way we might speak different languages, automatically makes us fundamentally separated from one another, whether it be a language barrier or the fact that we don't look the same. But gradually over the 2 years, what I've come to learn by interacting with people who I once thought were different from me is that we tend to laugh at the same jokes, we tend to dance to the same music, we tend to share so many things in common, to the point where what's different becomes all the more special, because then you realize that those unique little differences are a result of circumstances which you might not have experienced. And so similar to how experiencing maybe the first winter as a student who grew up in a tropical country, experiencing the first winter might be a special moment, seeing those little things which might be different, the little mannerisms and the differences in belief, that is, in my opinion, as exciting as any other physical experience you would in traveling the world. Because in meeting those people, you gradually begin to see humans who have had to adapt to a different reality, but at the same time maintain at the core of their being characteristics which just link you in a way that transcends any of the differences. And so in difference, we find similarity, you could say.
Zach, thank you. I mean, what you highlighted is this kind of like universal set of experiences that makes us all human, right? And I guess, you know, we can all understand that that humans have a shared experience, and culturally, and when we get to spend time with others that are different than us, we transform and we connect in new ways. But sometimes, you know, diversity of thought and ideologies and beliefs become sort of areas of tension, right? And then sometimes we can all celebrate cultural diversity, but maybe is there a wrong kind of diversity, or how do we enable diversity of thought, you know, in the same space and in the same place? Musimbi, what do you think about these new challenges around people who believe things that are different than us?
So I don't think that it's anything new. I have traveled in 137 countries over the years that I have been there. And then I have taught in a number of institutions, including teaching in Fiji, in India, in UK, in Kenya, Canada, etc. And at the school, at the university or school level, when you study together, you automatically see that right from the classroom, when you have students or when you have a student, you bring a lot of different ideas on the table. So it's always there with the difference of opinions. And in fact, it's a very good thing to have difference of opinions on anything whatsoever. We are not inventors of this. I think it comes with the humanity to have different opinions on different things. What I think puts us apart is not because of the difference of opinions alone, but it's because we put certain values on these opinions, and then we accredit those values with something that is either positive or negative. And when you want to refer to the most prevalent differences of opinions, for me, I think they come with history. There was a time when certain people thought slavery was good and other people thought it was not a good thing. There are times when people thought that they could go and worship together, people of different faiths, but they could exclude certain people out of that worship system. We know it. There are these days people are disagreeing on things like, should we be vaccinated or not be vaccinated for COVID? People still have issues with the differences of sexualities. People still have differences on differences of race. Are we really equal when we look different physically, etc.? These discussions have been there for a long time. What is different is that knowledge has increased. Our knowledge of each other and our knowledge of the world has increased because of the easy access to each other. Any question we ask about something that we have a difference on, we can put a human face to it. And therefore, we have ability to deal with it in a different way. And we also have grown in a way of accommodating difference in a way that was not there, say, 100 years ago or 50 years ago, etc. And this will continue, but the differences will continue to be, and they build us and they help us. And sometimes these differences can also get us out of holes, out of bad places, because there are some differences that really can lead people to bad places if people don't express it.
Musimbi, thank you. I mean, you give us this bigger picture of how, you know, these things aren't new, or the polarization in different communities and all that. But you're right that I think we're moving in the right trend, and humanitarian values or value-based education might be the one that is opening us up to more understanding of others and different views. And the fact that we have such charged beliefs, positive or negative, around certain things. Zach, would you like to comment on this idea of, is diversity of thought, or have you found that that diversity of thought is a place for either connection or tension?
Well, I really have to agree with Madam Musimbi's points, talking about the way in which knowledge has increased and the way that the circumstances in which we encounter different opinions have evolved. Because I suppose, whereas before in history, before the dawn of, say, United World College, where you got to have so many people in one place, you saw people ask their opinion mainly, and nothing else. You saw them as their principle, you saw them as their political stance. But now, at least in my experiences, we now live in a world where it's possible to formulate a meaningful relationship with someone before you even get to know their political principles, which to me is a crucial sequence of events. Because where before we learn about people's political beliefs first, the moment you know a political belief and you find you disagree with it, nothing else about that person can be good. Nothing else about that person can be good. However, if you find that this is a person that you have managed to make a good relationship with, and later on you find that there's a belief that you two don't share, there is instantly a willingness to want to understand why a person who you seem to have shared values with all of a sudden disagrees with you on this one point. There is an incentive to get along with people now, knowing that beyond that one belief, which you didn't know existed before, there is a good person which you are willing to spend time with and get to know. And so those circumstances have only been really possible in the recent history of the globalized world. And I think in that sense, when you talk about cognitive diversity, there's always going to be a free marketplace of ideas, but the way in which you enter that marketplace, I believe, is going to be vital.
Wow, Zach, thank you. Thank you so much. The viewers have been following us and thinking about this same question while we've been discussing here and sharing ideas. I wonder if we could see what kind of connections and what kind of things they were thinking about. And I would love to see maybe Zach first, and then Musimbi have a few comments on these new ideas that maybe we didn't touch on, and that might kind of stimulate and maybe help us thinking a little bit further in this way. So the question was, what empowers us again to collaborate or communicate with people unlike us? And there was some huge kind of support with love and curiosity. Zach, do any of these kind of connect with the things that you were thinking or take you in new ways? Would you like to comment?
Well, looking at the bubbles that have popped up, the one that really stands out to me is the quote that when everyone is thinking the same, no one is thinking. Because one of my favorite quotes is actually by Mark Twain, when he once wrote that whenever one finds himself in the place of majority, he must take some time to pause and reflect. There are so many instances in the social world that it is so easy to bandwagon. And of course, we feel safe in the majority. I mean, if we turn out to be wrong, then I'm not wrong. We're all wrong, right? And so there's no dignity lost there. And yet, it does take a certain amount of courage to be able to think differently. And that courage is what I believe makes leaders in many ways. In fact, I once read somewhere that in certain social groups, the devil's advocate is the most important person. And so I really do appreciate the quote here saying that if everyone's thinking the same thing, then well, yeah, there's not much thinking going on.
I always remember you, Zach, as a provocateur, and I definitely agree with you. Musimbi, would you like to connect with any of the audience's comments?
Yes, thank you. I connect with almost all of them. I should say all of them in some way or other. And but what they did for me also was to ask, what exactly am I answering? When do I consider somebody who is unlike me? Is it because they are not as tall or as short as I am? Is it because we don't eat the same diet of food? What is it that makes me define as somebody that somebody is not? Is it a social system? Is it a race system? Because in reality, there's always something that makes you, when you are next to another human being, there's always going to be something that connects you. And depending on what the context is, that person is not unlike you. And that person can be very unlike you if the context so defines. So for example, Jamie, I could say you're different because you're a man and I'm a woman. What makes me inspired to talk to you? Do I even think about it? So I'm saying that most of the times we don't have the choice that we have to be inspired or we have to be initiated into a conversation with people that are not different. Like the world has put us in a place where you don't have to look far. There is always going to be something that can be defined as difference. So what, where the conversations that I see as the audience put there, my mind went into what is the subject matter that makes me easily see that there's a difference between me and my fellow human being, because it's definitely going to be a subject matter, or it's definitely going to be an event to which you like football and I like hockey, so we're different. And so we might, what kind of conversation could we have in that? So all of these things, when they come together, that's when I would be able to define using these and all other possibilities to see what is it that has inspired a conversation and a connection. But I want to, time is short, I just want to say that it is in our nature as human beings to connect with other human beings, and opportunity avails itself at different times. And then the subject matter helps our thought system to see whether we agree on issues or not agree on the issues. We can agree to disagree and be friends, or we can disagree so much that we can't be friends, or we can't be friends on that issue, but on another issue, we are extremely at par and friends. And so I think that there is no answer that is definite, but we just affirm that difference exists and similarities exist, and we celebrate diversity.
Thank you so much, Musimbi. You know, this question of why we need all kinds of minds, I think, like really roots us in what you just mentioned, which is kind of diversity in human culture, particularly today with the future challenges that we have. It becomes this kind of reservoir of knowledge and values at all levels where we can pool, even with small issues or singular issues that might become mini roadblocks. But I think I want to thank you both for sharing, and I want to hand over to Hannah to see if the judges have already decided and will hear the new 2021 Young Aurora Prize winner. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jaime. Although I think the jury isn't back yet, so I think I might leave it still with you for a moment. But I'm looking to the organizers there. So I think you can still continue your conversation for a moment. They will come back at 20 past, I believe.
Okay, sure. You know, one thing that I was thinking about is, you know, in taking this conversation to maybe another thing that might be connected to all kinds of minds and how do we deal with people who are unlike us. There's this just been general push of do we specialize in our careers? I'm sure Zach or others have been pushed to kind of focus their thinking and their learning in one direction, while, you know, others are kind of becoming open to kind of exploring different avenues, connecting different fields of thought and all that. What do we feel about that, in the sense that, of course, we need scientists and humanitarians and philosophers and mathematicians, but what happens in a world where we lack diversity in terms of these very direct specializations, and what is richer? We clearly like diversity, but we're being educated and formed in a sort of silos as well to focus and specialize. Maybe we can hear Zach and then Musimbi's experience in that sense.
Right. So I think that one of the major revolutions in education recently is best described in what is typically called the liberal arts. It's this idea that students gain a lot from being exposed to different areas of knowledge. And obviously, one of the criticisms of the liberal art is this idea that you become a jack of all trades, but a master of none. That is the cliche saying. But in my experience, what happens is that with different fields, while they are talking about different phenomena and different things about the world, ultimately, for example, the best manifestation of this is the pandemic, in that you can't separate these fields entirely. And so in the same way that we must rely on scientists to produce a vaccine, to produce responsible quarantine policies, at the end of the day, we are working with humans. And so, you know, for every quarantine lockdown policy implemented, there will be an economic backlash. For every vaccine mandate, there will be a political backlash about whether or not your liberty is being infringed. And so, to me, I think we are gradually waking up to the reality that even if we are to specialize in our own fields, then that will come at the necessary cost of relying more on others. And if we want to transition towards a society where leaders become more multifaceted in their thinking in order to become more independent, then we will need to shift education in that way. But ultimately, I am of the belief that one way or another, the disciplines meet, whether between people or between the training of education that we have.
Thank you so much, Zach. Musimbi, what has your experience been? Was it always like this, of specialized tracks, or have you found in your work and in your experience people with various like specializations and knowledge?
So I'll answer it very briefly by saying that, training in school has always had some specialization of sorts all over the world. And I think it's a good thing even in professions, because I consider the things that we acquire to support our world are like a human body. A human body has many parts, but it functions together. So you can't be able to say the eye is less important than the foot. But at the same time, the foot specializing in walking is a good thing, so that the eye can specialize in seeing. But they are connected, and we know that the nervous system makes them function together. What we need in the world is a functionality of the different specializations that is actually gives that skeleton that holds it together. Recently, I personally trained up to my graduate studies in the arts and in science, in the arts less than in sciences. In my retirement, I'm reading more in sciences than in the arts. And I'm finding out that I have used sciences along the way, but I never considered myself as one. And now I'm in part of my retirement, I'm associating with scientists a lot. So I'm part of a group of 100 scientists that are doing special studies in many different things, which I won't talk about. And I'm actually feeling that I'm learning, but I also see how much I have benefited from their specialization and how much they have benefited from my specialization of defending the rights of humans, which also included their rights. So I think that this is how I see specialization and the working together of different specialties.
Thank you. I love the metaphor of the body and also the international system. What a great way of ending. I just wanted to say, I met my neighbor the other day, and we were talking about some high-ranking intellectual, and he said, I don't trust people who are experts in so many things. So maybe it might be good that the special parts work independently. But thank you so much for that beautiful metaphor. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Musimbi, for taking part. And I think we have a winner, Anna.
Thanks so much to all of you. Thanks, Jaime, Musimbi, and Zach. Many things will stay with me from this conversation, especially those two words, love and curiosity. I thought they were a very beautiful match. So yes, we have the jury back. And accordingly, we will now move to the announcement of the 2021 winner of Young Aurora. And I'm handing over to Mirza, who, as the winner of the Aurora Prize for the big ones, will announce the Aurora Prize winner of the young ones. Mirza, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. I should say it was not easy to decide because all these three projects are excellent, only with one word, are really excellent. But unfortunately, at the end, we have to decide one of those projects according to a special system that we have chosen. And the winner of this year is the project Seed of Hope, Waterfall Kablaba, from UWC South Africa. Congratulations to all of you. Unfortunately, we have missed your nice discussion, Zach and the others. And congratulations again to all of it.
I'm so glad you were spotlighted so everybody can see the joy happening there. And we also have the other teams joining us. So Seed of Hope team, huge congratulations. I think part of them are actually not in the picture. Well, there they are again. You've made it very well. But let us also celebrate Lorax and the Peer Listener Project. You guys did an amazing job. It was such a joy to listen to you. And having had the privilege of listening to you in the rehearsals as well, as I already wrote to you in our little group, it was like listening to different teams today. So your learning curve was inspiring and amazing. Can we maybe turn to the Seed of Hope team for a comment? Can we hear something from you?
Thank you so much. Yeah. I can't find the word to describe how excited we are. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and I want to thank for all my teammates. You've done an amazing good job. And also it's like we've gone through a really difficult and very disturbing time, but we shall overcome. Yeah. And we will make this project even better with this money, definitely. And thanks so much.
Well, I'm so speechless for this great news. Really, it's kind of a reward for all the hard work that we put in this. And also just gives us the hope that, yeah, we can still be change makers and that our voices can be heard. And I'm super excited in this circumstance, really. What I say, really, I don't know, but I'm super excited. And thank you so much to the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative to give us this opportunity to be change makers in real life in our communities. And just to finish, I'll just say congratulations to all the other two teams. You guys, you are still change makers and you're doing great jobs. And the world is out there for you to make good changes because you have potentials. Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks so much. And you will overcome, we shall overcome indeed. So I think we will stop spotlighting in a second and have gallery view so we can actually take a picture of all of us together. Well, actually right now we are just looking at the excited winners, which is really nice as well for some social media pictures. And with this, we are reaching the end of this year's Young Aurora Award. And if we were together, we would now start the celebrations, but now we will just start lots of small celebrations across the world and be united in spirit. Let me finish by saying that this event wouldn't be possible without the support and enthusiasm of so many. And so I would like to finish this event by celebrating and thanking some specific people. First of all, I would like to thank all the many participants, both here on the Zoom and Facebook, and who will watch it now live and who will watch it later. I really hope you will leave inspired to see how much change we can each make in our local communities. I would like to thank the partners, Teach for All and the African Leadership Academy, who continue to stay at the side of this event and make it happen every year. My special thanks, or our thanks on behalf of all of us, to the pre-selection jury and to the final jury for all the time you dedicate and your support in empowering and supporting the next generation of humanitarians. I would like to thank all participating students. And with that, I mean both the students we saw today from the 3 finalist teams, but also especially the students from all the other 12 teams who didn't make it to the final, but who still had amazing projects. We can't wait to see how your projects will grow and develop. And last but not least, I would of course like to thank again the founders of the Young Aurora, of the Aurora Humanitarian Prize, especially of Young Aurora, Veronica Sonnabend. And my personal and special final thanks goes to Celia from UWC International, who is the coordinator of this entire event and who is working tirelessly over many months to make this happen and has been in touch with many of you. Thank you, Celia. Without you, none of this would happen. So with this, we will leave many happy smiles in Eswatini, and I'm very excited about this moment of light during quite difficult times. But I also really hope that there are many smiles at UWC Atlantic, UWC East Africa, because you guys did an amazing job. And I'm sure you have a lot of new fans for your project. Maybe some of you want to reach out to those project teams and also offer your support in whatever way you can. Seed of Hope will receive $5,000 to make their dream come true. But the others, I'm sure, will also receive a lot of support from this global community. Let's go on gallery view, maybe to finish this.
Thank you.
So we can all wave to each other.
Students, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Veronica. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.